See, I am of course trying to talk about something just in ordinary philosophy. You know, struck to me after listening to the two lecturers, well, I might not be very much on the wrong track because I am trying to strike out ease. Assertion, in fact, I am trying to strike off what you have in your title, the ontology. Well, it's not going to be a talk in science, but now ease is a word, of course, which is used for different purposes. Sometimes we use ease to say, just express the sort of identity, like Jekyll is Hyde, or Daniel Laval Miguel. Daniel is Miguel. Identity of the person or something. Well, you also use is to say something like Einstein is wise, which is a sort of predication or whatever. Or sometimes, again, for class inclusion and so on. But those meanings are not what concerns me here. It is the meaning of existence that concerns me. That is, when you say something like, he is, or the Himalayan mountain is, you are asserting existence. Now, I really use Buddhism as a base for this exposition. Now, when in the Kaccayanagotta Sutta, Buddha was asked, what is the right view and what is the right view? Buddha said, people have been obsessed with these two extremes, the atti and the natti, the atha and the natha, the is and the is not. But I must sort of make this clarification. In the Kaccayanagotta Sutta, what was meant by the atti and the natti was probably eternal existence. Eternal existence. That was what was in question, the existence of something like a soul. That was sort of what was prevalent among the whatever religious or philosophical discussion at the time. I am, of course, not going to sort of confine myself to the eternal existence view. I am just taking is, even otherwise, the ordinary is, where you and I exist probably very temporarily. Now the Buddha, the important thing is that the Buddha, after saying, well, people are obsessed with this, he comes out with the Paticcasamuppada. He does not talk of atti and natti anymore. He sort of, in my view, it was an effort to give up atti and natti, not only probably in the eternal sense, but even in the ordinary sense. Because in the Paticcasamuppada, what is asserted is, well, if you have this, you have that. It's called a causal sort of relationship, but the causal relationship is a very complicated relationship because there are no single causes and there are no single effects. And also, nothing is asserted there. What is asserted is a conditional. A conditional does not assert anything, except, of course, the relationship. To say if it rains, the river overflows, we are not saying that it rains. We are also not saying that the river is overflowing. So you are not asserting the existence of either side of the conditional. So in the Paticcasamuppada, as I read it, again, it's an effort to avoid the atti natti in the ordinary sense. And when I went to look at these words which refer to existence in Pali, in Buddhism, you see, normally they use the word hoti. Hoti for existence. Something like even the Paticcasamuppada is given, the general rule is given as imasmin sati idam hoti. And so the hoti means becoming. Hoti means becoming. It's not is real. Then when we come to the what's called the Dhamma period in the Buddhist history, the centuries after the Parinibbana, the 3 or 4 centuries after the Parinibbana, you see, analysis of most of these concepts, ideas by the elders take place, and this analysis ultimately leads to the Abhidhamma. I will just read a passage from Professor Y. Karunadas. All the different modes of analysis and classification found in the Abhidhamma step from a single philosophical principle. This principle is the notion that all phenomena of empirical existence are made up of a number of elementary constituents, the ultimate realities behind the manifest phenomena. These elementary constituents, the building blocks of experience, are called the Dhammas. Now, what happens in the early Buddhism, of course, was going by authorities like Professor Karunadasa, the Theravada in any way tried to avoid giving a sense of existence even to the Dhammas. But the cultural milieu at that time was such that avoiding giving existence, avoiding giving a soul, avoiding a concept of a Pudgala was a very difficult task. And also there were questions like what sort of, if there is no person, if there is no Pudgala, if there is nothing existing, even most of the things that have been said, the ethical ideas and whatever in Buddhism will have no relevance. That type of charge was there. But however it is, some of the Buddhist schools the different sects which developed. For example, the main example here is the Sarvastivada. They thought of these dhammas in terms of something that exists during the three times, the past, the present, and the future. Now that would make the Dhamma a permanent or an existent thing. But that was, and even the South Trantrikers, they took up what's called the Shanavada, or the momentary existence. So, having mentioned the Shanavada, I'll drop it for the moment. But the Sarvastivada existence, we know, is what bothered Nagarjuna. What Nagarjuna was attacking when he was arguing for Sunyata. When he was arguing for Sunyata, he was in fact directly, more or less directly attacking the Sarvastivada notion of existence. But whatever it is, let me take one example now. The second chapter, or the second pariksha of the Mula Madhyamika Karika, says something like Gatan na gamyate tavad agatan naiva gamyate. Gata gata vinirmuktan gamyamanan na gamyate. He's saying the person who has traveled, thus is not traveling at the moment. Person who has not traveled is also not moving at the moment. So he's saying, well, there is nobody to travel, to be moving at the moment. Because if you take the traveled and the non-traveled, those two exhaust the universe. So there won't be anybody to be traveling at the moment. So that's the first sloka in the Gata, that is motion, examination of motion. So that is directly attacking the notion of existence in the three times, that is the past, present, and the future. Similarly, the Shunyata view is in fact, I think, the cleverest attempt to avoid the ease. In fact, Nagarjuna all the time says, there is nothing, even words, even my thesis of Shunyata is not real, not existent. So, in fact, although there is sort of a general charge that Nagarjuna's position leads to paradox, he has in fact replied in the Vigraha Vyartani to those charges. And I think most thinkers probably who are in the field think that Nagarjuna's answers are satisfactory to get out of this paradoxical situation. But whatever it is, it was probably the best attempt to give up the notion of ease, give up the notion of existence. Nothing exists. Because only becoming is there. Only becoming is there. Because unless you are going to say that is means becoming, which somebody would say would be a contradiction. Because is something sort of like making things static. It makes the thing. If you want to say is becoming, well and good, I have no problem about it. But that, that would be, of course, going by modern sort of philosophical or logical writing, that would be a little problematic. Because now, if I come to a logician philosopher like Quine, who has been writing on this, who has been commenting on the notion of existence, that is the way the word is being used. Well, he says that existence has only one meaning, that is the meaning of assertion. In fact, Quine says, he is going by the logical or mathematical ideas. To be is to be a value of a variable. That's how he expresses what existence is. That's like in mathematics. To be is to be a value of a variable. And he says, well, existence can have only one meaning. Although people speak of different meanings that could be given, he says those are descriptions of ontologies. The types of life, type of existence. But the notion of existence, the assertion notion, has to be, universal. There can't be two meanings of existence, according to him. Thought I had... if we quote from Quine. They may explain that abstract objects do not exist the way physical objects do. The difference is not, they say, just a difference in two sorts of objects, one in space-time and one not, but a difference in two senses of there are. So that in the sense in which there are concrete objects, there are no abstract objects. But then there remain two difficulties, a little one and a big one, and he goes on to say, well, such philosophical double talk, which should repudiate an ontology while enjoying its benefits, thrives on vagaries of ordinary language. So, this notion that existence has only one sense, the sense of assertion or logical sense or whatever it is. Now that would, anyway, you'll have to think out whether giving the meaning of becoming to is, would have some problem in that type of notion. I don't have any definite idea about it. But, so, becoming, although I would like that. This has happened probably even in recent times with some of the scientists who have been dealing with the problems in quantum mechanics. For example, David Bohm, he has been writing on, he put out a paperback somewhere in, around 2000, the wholeness and the implicate order. And there he was advocating that the words we are using have to be shifted to what he called a Rio mode. Rio mode is a sort of mode which sort of makes the words talk of sort of things which are moving, like not static things. The normal concept is sort of making things static. And he was trying to, in fact, solve some of the problems in quantum mechanics by an introduction of a language like that. You know that quantum mechanics, the solutions to the so-called problems in quantum mechanics, lots of efforts have been made to change the logics, change the language, and so on. So David Bohm, who is again called a realist, who takes a realist view of, realist in physics, so philosophy of physics. He's of course top scientist, in London, and earlier I think he worked as an assistant to Einstein. So they are the realists. Like Einstein sort of stopped doing quantum mechanics because he's also called a realist. And the realist is probably, who wants to give the quantum objects what Professor Nalin De Silva probably said, the classical, make it a classical object, which could, at least in theory, be predictable. But, that has not succeeded so far. The effort of the class. In fact, even when I was sort of struggling to do something in philosophy of science, I sort of was trying to meet Paul Feyerabend's arguments. Paul Feyerabend is a realist. He's a philosopher of science, but he takes a realist approach, and he thought quantum mechanics with the Copenhagen interpretation should be thrown out. And a completely new theory will have to be built. Of course, it's not easy to do that because the experimental or whatever material does not support, probably fully back the present situation, I think. But anyway, it is that which led him to what is now sort of the fashionable area in philosophy, sort of fashionable view in philosophy of science, the relativism. Feyerabend is one of the two key relativists. Relativistic philosophers of science, the other is Thomas Kuhn. Both of them, in fact, together in 1962 came up with, Kuhn came up with the structure of scientific revolutions, and Feyerabend came up with some of his articles, made articles in 1962, which sort of began what is called the relativistic view of philosophy of science. In fact, Feyerabend, until then, for about 15 years, he was all the time writing about quantum mechanics, the complementarity in that, and the difficulties in that, and all the time, because he thought quantum mechanics was positivistic. You see, he was thinking that Bohr and all these people, in fact, intentionally made it positivistic, which that is Feyerabend was saying at that time. And he wanted that rejected. Positivism is not the method of science, method of progressive science. Only a realistic approach to science, realistic methodology of science will succeed according to Feyerabend. That's why he was. And then, of course, he wanted completely different type of theory. And that's the type of thing that Kuhn and people were saying. In science, Kuhn introduced this word paradigm. Paradigm change. Paradigm change is revolution in science. And when you change, you say any, but field, say let us say physics, the paradigms have changed from time to time. For example, from Newton's corpuscular theory of light, people shifted to the wave theory of light, and now they have shifted to the photon and having all these complicated wave particle characteristics and all that type of thing. But once the paradigm changes, the world changes, and in fact, from their point of view, there is no possible intercommunication between any two paradigms. Incommensurability sets in and inconsistency sets in. So, I mean, in fact, Feyerabend was led to that methodology of science, I was just trying to say, because of his criticism of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics and his sort of realistic approach. Well, I think I have taken enough time. What I was trying to say was something like this. I had a lovable professor at UCLA, University of California at Los Angeles, Professor Robert Yost. He was a Harvard man. He had a list of terms which he wanted deleted from the philosophical vocabulary. The first of those words was the word real. Word real. Real, of course, is what we call is. Is, I mean, it is real, is existent. More or less, it's the same meaning. And well, I'm suggesting that for some of the problems, it might be in science, might be in philosophy, probably it might be better to scrap the is.